Welcome to Conflict News 24. Today's news bulletin includes news stories mainly from Russia, Ukraine. Conflict is Russian. Is Russia now going to be a battleground? Because war is being fought in Ukraine since the 24th of February when Russian forces invaded Ukraine. But now it seems that war is approaching Russia. On Sunday, an airport was hit on Russia side of Russia-Ukraine border, 40 kilometers away from the border. On Russia side of the border, the airport was hit in some missile strikes. Secondly, some countries which are close to Russia are telling their citizens to leave Ukraine. They're closing their embassies in Ukraine. What does it indicate? Does it mean that Russia is planning major escalation in Ukraine? And thirdly, viewers, Iran is going to provide short-range ballistic missiles to Russia. It is being claimed that production is underway. Details for you. Firstly, viewers, war is being fought in Ukraine since the 24th of February this year. Ukraine forces in recent weeks have retaken some ground in Kharkiv, in northern Donetsk. They are trying to enter Lugansk and in Kherson as well. And now they are trying to push front lines towards Russia. Today, an airport was hit in Belgorod Oblast of Russia. In Belgorod Oblast, in Belgorod town, Belgorod International Airport was hit by Ukrainian missiles. Videos are being shared, pictures are being shared confirming missile strikes on Belgorod Airport, which is situated around 40 kilometers away from Russia-Kharkiv, Russia-Ukraine border. It means Ukrainian missiles are entering Russian airspace, hitting Russian targets inside mainland Russia. War is now approaching Russia, though just border areas, not Moscow or Kremlin, but it could be there as well if it keeps on progressing with this speed. Question is, when these missiles were fired by Ukrainian forces on an airport in Russian territory, where were Russian air defense systems? Russia is known for producing quality S-300, S-400 anti-missile defense systems, air defense systems, and there would be deployment of S-300s, at least S-300s, if not S-400s, at this airport. But the air defense systems could not defend. And reportedly, Ukrainian forces used US-supplied HERM missiles. If you remember, a few days ago, I spoke in a video about the plans in the US that anti-radiation HERM US manufactured missiles were going to be delivered to Ukraine. The missiles were delivered, and reportedly now Ukrainian MiG-29 Su-27 jets are using these HERM US-supplied anti-radiation missiles, which were used for Sunday's airstrikes on Belgorod airport. Russian air defense systems failed. What was the scale of damage? It's not clear. Obviously, there would be stationing of aircrafts on this airport, but satellite imagery is coming in. So maybe in coming hours, things will be clear about how much loss was suffered by Russian military in this attack on a Russian airport around 40 kilometers away from Russia-Ukraine border. In Belgorod yesterday, Belgorod Oblast, Velyuky town, there was an attack on a recruitment center, on a military training center in which around 11 volunteers were killed and 15 were injured. and Russian media said that the attackers were from either Uzbekistan or from Tajikistan. Belgorod, which shares border with Ukraine, is seeing Ukrainian attacks in the form of missile strikes and other terrorist attacks as well on Russian forces. Secondly, viewers, Russian allies are closing down their embassies in Ukraine. They're telling their citizens to leave Ukraine immediately. For the last 72 hours, these embassies are directing their citizens to leave Ukraine immediately. Serbia, a Russian ally, has closed its embassy in Ukraine in the last 48 hours. China passed instruction to its citizens to leave Ukraine immediately. Then Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, all these countries have passed instructions to their citizens that they must leave Ukraine immediately. Now, these instructions are not something new. Obviously, several embassies were closed in Ukraine since the start of this conflict in February this year. But these new instructions, especially closure of Serbian embassy in Ukraine, indicate that something big is coming. As we saw almost a week ago when Russia launched dozens of missile strikes on Ukrainian territories, Kiev, Lviv, Dnipropetrovsk and other Ukrainian oblasts were targeted and dozens of places were hit. Some civil infrastructure sites were hit too, train stations were hit, power transmission lines and headquarters were hit as well. So it means that Russia could do something big in Ukraine. It could lead to further escalation. That is why these countries are closing their embassies, telling their citizens to leave Ukraine immediately. And lastly, viewers, Iran is going to provide more weapons to Russia. We know that Iranian kamikaze Shaheed 136 drones are in operation in Russia against Ukraine. Iranian Muhajir 6 drones were purchased by Russia as well. Now, reportedly, Iran is going to provide long-range ballistic missiles to Russia. Production has been stepped up. 2 types of missiles will be supplied to Russian forces from Iran. Firstly, Zulfiqar. Secondly, Fatih 110. Both are short-range ballistic missiles with a range of around between 300 and 700 kilometers. Iranian missiles are very accurate, very precise. We have seen that when Qasem Soleimani, Iranian general, was killed in a drone strike by US in Iraq a few years ago. Iran back then responded by firing missiles close to US military bases in Iraq. Those strikes were very precise. Iran is known for having missiles with precision striking capability like North Korean missiles. Russia is going to purchase Fateh 110 and Zulfiqar ballistic missiles from Iran in coming days. So far, the missiles have not arrived in Russia, but reportedly a deal has been finalized and in coming days there could be delivery of these missiles to Russia. By the way, several cargo flights have been confirmed between Iran and Russia. The flights were conducted by an Iranian airline which is under sanctions because the same airline was involved in transporting weapons to Yemen, to Syria. It was put under sanctions by US and EU governments. Now, same airline is providing weapons to Russia and Fiti 110, Fateh 110 and Zulfagar could be in operation in Russia in coming days. Question is, does Russia have no such capability to manufacture these short-range missiles? Yes, Russia does have short-range, long-range missiles, but ammunition, lots of ammunition is needed. Of course, there are limits to production capabilities of countries. Russia is acquiring weapons from Belarus as well, munitions, and from Iran too. Thank you for watching.